Ramuta. Sean, the situation here is with regards to a 4-minute clip that was circulating on social media, which shows 2 state-issued assault rifles and a bulletproof vest hanging from a tree at a beach gathering. The video also shows the faces of police officers as well as prisons officers who were smiling. It is said that some of these individuals, it's alleged that they are part of the Acting Prisons Commissioner's security detail. That is what is being purported. But beyond that, the Acting Prisons Commissioner has come out in full force in terms of his defense, saying that there are wicked individuals out there who are trying to tarnish his character.
Well, so the first part about it is, if it looks bad at a time when you already have a missing Galil, so you have questions with regards to security of weapons in the Ministry of National Security, or at least one arm. Then you have the controversy that's ongoing with the heliport, right? All of these things were covered in the press conference on Sunday. Now, granted, yes, the Acting Commissioner of Prisons, it's not as though he did this after that press conference, after the fire got turned up a little bit. But again, this is why you do the right thing, even when you don't know what could possibly go wrong, because he does something about a month ago, almost the day, I believe, or to the day, and now it's coming back to haunt him, you know, a month later. But the timing of it, first of all, as I was saying, when the Ministry of National Security already has these high-profile matters that's bringing the conduct, right? Because then there was also the case of, which we haven't heard much of, but it was one question asked and answered, I believe, at the press conference, where a presidential vehicle was shot up, right, by members of the Defense Force. So you have those controversies going on, then you come out here, we already have a gun missing, we'll just casually hang up two rifles on a tree branch. The thing is, if you're out and your security detail is supposed to be actively protecting you, how are they liming? And if they're liming, why do they have that type of weaponry with them, right? You can't be doing both at the same time. I don't care how remote of a location you are, because you're just asking for trouble. One could argue that the trouble is not likely, but it's still possible. But more importantly, you know it will look bad.
Here is the absolutely
and as a public figure, this is why you don't do certain things.
Here's the absolutely ridiculous comment on the part of Mr. Ramuta. And I quote, "I'm the Commissioner of Prisons. I have access to and accommodation of security in and around me, so I have full authority to have security detail, including officers with firearms, to see about my protection." So it's not only wicked, unscrupulous people want to make something out of that. There's nothing untoward or wrong that was done in that. Absolutely ridiculous part. First of all, hold on, Sean, hold on.
Go ahead.
It's extremely arrogant. I don't care. I understand that you are the Commissioner of Prisons and you have a security detail, but the way you go about in trying to defend yourself is not only arrogant, but the narcissism in you trying to say that there are people trying to make something out of it, and you further suggesting that there's nothing wrong with it. Is it in any training at all, any training associated with firearms or securing firearms that allows you to hang them from a tree anywhere at all? You are not supposed to keep your firearm off of you at all. It's a state issue. You sign for it. If it went missing now, there's going to be a press conference. There's going to be a waste of resources trying to search for it, and nothing would probably happen, or Mr. Ramuta would probably not even face punishment. To me, this individual here, the mere fact he's defending it and he's the head of the prisons, only goes to show the attitude and the mentality that is absolutely wrong with many officers, I wouldn't say all, but many officers within the protective services. Who is protecting who? As you mentioned, I don't understand. If it is he has a security detail, how they could be linemen? Who is his security detail? The trees? The trees were security details because they had the bulletproof vests and the guns. I can't understand that.
It unfortunately, it's difficult to not call the comment ignorant. And one would hope that as a law enforcement officer, and maybe there's a deficiency in our training with regards to prison officers and things like security, because that's not their primary role. But to some extent, I would have thought that he would have been better educated with regards to, look, security is security, or at the very least his detail would have been educated properly, taught properly, to be more professional. If I am there to secure my principal, I am not there to lie. I'm just not. Because even if nobody could get to the guns, I don't have my weapon, my primary weapon. And make no mistake, I could have a secondary weapon like a pistol on me. It's not the same thing. There's a reason why I'm issued these rifles in the first place, right? They're not readily available to me. So, as you pointed out again, who is securing what in that situation?
My thing is that the mere fact that this gentleman, who happens to be the head of the prison officers service, who happens to deal with prisons, I understand that he's interacting with criminal elements on a daily basis. I understand the need for security detail. But at the same time, if you have a security detail with you, a security detail one is not supposed to be liming. Because as much as I understand you are a human being as well, and we all need leisure and we all need pleasure, quite frankly, you have shown your irresponsibility and immaturity here. And because you could come and defend it and chastise others, because it was highlighted, you see, his response shows he didn't think that this was something that would have been highlighted or caught. He didn't think this would be an issue. His immediate response tells me that he knew what he was doing. He just didn't think it was come to light. So because...
Well, you want to hear the best parts?
Hold on. Because he has shown that, I would go as far as to say on this program this morning that this gentleman should not be heading the prisons because of this irresponsibility and immaturity. Because I don't know the exact protocols, I don't know the exact procedures of which he is, one, practicing, and two, enforcing. Because if this is outside the prisons, I don't know what's going on inside the prisons.
The best part is, 2 weeks after, it's reported that at a similar situation, a prison officer with Ramata had his service issue firearm stolen at a beach in Crown Point. And an internal investigation is being launched into that. I don't know why it's internal, because you're not in a prison facility, right? You're out in a public place, I believe. I don't know if Swallows Beach has any. You're out in a public place. So I don't know why the TTPS isn't handling that. But he's the acting commissioner of prisons. So that and all kind of shows that politically he seems to be quite unaware about certain things. At the end of the day, once you get to that level, right, you cannot say that there isn't politics involved, both internally and externally, right? Both for jockeying for position to get to the actual substantive rank of commissioner, as well as the fact that you now, as the service head, have to advocate for your service to the public, to the ministry, for budget concerns, etc. You're acting.
Sean,
you ain't even finished that part of the process yet, and you're acting as though you're the uncrowned king, who the second coming of I don't know what.
I wonder if these are deliberate mistakes. I wonder if these are deliberate mistakes, so that there's a possibility there is an association or a link of criminal elements where these deliberate mistakes allows them to get these weapons and then it's reported as missing. I wonder if that is something that is taking place, if such a racket is taking. I wonder. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service has stated that 21 firearms have been reported stolen for 2023. This is the 6th month of 2023, whilst last year, in total, 20 firearms were reported lost or stolen. According to the TTPS, so far this year, 2 belong to the Ministry of National Security and were FUL holders. 7 were estate police firearm users, employees, certificate holders. 9 were civilian FUL. And holders who lost 2 shotguns and 1 rifle. I don't know what we have shotguns in Trinidad for, but in particular, the TTPS has said 2 belong to Ministry of National Security, 7 belong to estate police certificate holders.
I mean, and that's, as you usually point out for things like this, that's the ones that we know of, right? Do we know of every single situation where the individual service has decided to call on an internal investigation? Kudos to the head of Tetron Barracks, to the head of the regiment with regards to, at the least, how they handled Sunday past. And now maybe it's because the barracks went on lockdown, so it's difficult to cover that up. But, you know, the head of that base more or less probably knew what was happening when he took that step, right? It's not about hiding things. It's about solving this issue ASAP. Now, the flip side is we have a potential, not just smoking gun, because a firearm went missing, but, you know, a potential risk factor. And again, as you're rightfully getting annoyed, the principal individual involved is defending it in a rather unfortunate manner that potentially exposes his ignorance about basic fundamental security principles.
And training.
So now, right, and now we have to ask, what does this mean? What is the implication this has with regards to other parts of our national security apparatus, right? Maybe we're wrong. Maybe somebody from the ministry, the TTPS, the Defense Force will tell us we're wrong. But I don't like the fact that the head of prisons doesn't even understand how his security detail, a basic function as standing on watch, being on guard. That's what you're there for. Yeah, security detail. Secret Service don't sit my ties when the president is out in public, right? So
I think what also frustrates me beyond this, Sean, is that I'm constantly hearing internal investigation. We as citizens never know what's the status of these internal investigations, whether or not they're concluded, whether or not they're actually solved. Beyond just that, if it was a private citizen whose gun was stolen or went missing, a police investigation can actually lead to their arrest or them being charged. If you are leaving the country, you're supposed to lodge your firearm with the Trans-Tobago Police Service. If you do not have your weapon on you, your licensed weapon, it's supposed to be kept in a safe of which is approved. All of these things, according to the Firearm Act, under Section 43 of the Firearms Act, a licensed firearm holder is expected to store the weapon in a safe place away from children. Section 42 notes that the individual is also expected to lodge their weapon at a police station while leaving the country. It should be noted that under the Firearms Act, it is a crime for a person to have a firearm with him while drunk. We don't know whether or not alcohol was being consumed or the condition of these gentlemen. Again, human beings, everybody deserves leisure or pleasure, but look at what you're dealing with here. While drunk or under the influence of drugs. If found guilty, that individual faces $20,000 fine and, not or, and imprisonment for 2 years. I really wonder what is going to be the repercussions, if any at all, for this. Whether it be his security detail or whether it be Commissioner Ramota himself, acting commissioner. Because
both.
Because to me, he should not be in this position this morning, the mere fact that he's defended, at least in the way he does. That maturity, that irresponsibility, that carelessness. We as people of Trinidad and Tobago cannot afford for this nonsense to happen and to continue happening, because we will only remain a banana republic. We will only remain a banana republic. Nothing will improve, nothing will get better, so long as you have individuals who are incompetent in charge. That is
both. Just to answer your rhetorical question, both the security detail for their lack of principles, right? I don't care how low the risk was, because of the remote location, you put your principal at risk, right? It was not professional. So they need to be severely disciplined. But then also the acting commissioner of prisons, he needs to potentially, well, you're the top job. You need to understand you're not a grunt anymore. You can't do as you please, right? The microscope, to some extent, is on you. Yes, you're not the police commissioner, but you're still a commissioner. You're still the head of a service. You can't do things like that and not expect the public to respond. And if you don't understand that, you're not fit for the job.
Anyway, Sean, we have to take a quick break here on Talking Points, but when we return, we'll continue this morning's conversations. Stay tuned to Talking Points here on WESN, the content capital.
Did you know that polycystic ovarian syndrome, or PCOS, is one of the most common issues faced by women of reproductive age in Trinidad and Tobago?
So we see more patients with polycystic if they're obese, but there are the small-billed patients who also have polycystic ovaries.
What other treatment options are there available for these girls? What's Up Doc? Every Tuesday and Thursday on WESN, Content Capital.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
Welcome back to Talking Point, ladies and gentlemen. And if you watch the show, you know that the opposition walking out of Parliament is not something that is rare. It's actually somewhat, regular. At the very least, every now and then it happens when the opposition takes umbrage to how the debate is being managed or how the conversation is going. This time, we have a very interesting situation as the Speaker of the House is trying to steer the debate towards a certain direction, and members present, in fact, one of the individuals is not a member of the House, actually keeps looking to backtrack. So, for more, let's cue this.
Well, the Privy Council said it was not unconstitutional.
Member for Superior, remember it's just a limited amendment. You are quite experienced. I've allowed you some leeway if you could just deal with the amendment as it is and not rehash things.
I am guided. But there must be, why are we here and what are we correcting?
I fully understand what you are saying, and I understood what you said up to the point when I made the intervention, that you have explained why we're here and the consequences. What I am limiting you in is going back into the debate with respect to the Privy Council decision, with respect to calling the elections now, etc. I'm not allowing that.
Thank you so much. And Madam Speaker, I think it would be very unfair if I were not able to put forward why we objected to that clause 5.
I am almost certain that you're not trying to say that the ruling is unfair. Okay?
No, not.
I'm almost certain you're not saying that. But again, I repeat, you're quite aware of the standing orders.
And he said it has to do with the de facto doctrine.
Again, we're running afoul of the same thing. In this debate, the AG has said nothing. We're dealing with the clause, which is the deletion.
So, Madam Speaker, because the AG has come here and stayed totally silent, we cannot debate this matter to give or support it or not give or support. I feel that is objectionable with the greatest of respect. Because if nobody on that side gets so we are not allowed to speak
Member for Superior,
on matters.
I believe you started talking at 2:19. It is 2:33, so I don't think it will be accurate to say that your side is not being allowed to say anything. You have been allowed a lot, but once you keep within the confines of the standing orders, of course.
Take total objection to this course of action, and I will not participate in this debate. And we should all leave. This is
Attorney
total
General?
not democracy. Total not democracy.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Members, if you have a right to leave. Member for Princestown and member for St. Augustine, you all do have a right to leave if you wish. Please don't disrupt the proceedings.
In anticipation.
Member. Member for Princestown. Member for Princestown, I would ask you to apologize for your outburst. You are too senior for this type of behavior.
Madam, I apologize, but it changes nothing.
Okay. Member, I want an unconditional apology. Please keep your emotions under control.
I apologize.
Thank you very much. Attorney General. So, AG,
Yes.
the same thing. I really tried to
Sorry, Madam Speaker.
contain the member for Superior. I will allow you to respond to anything that was said here today. Unfortunately, we're not backpedaling.
The decision.
Okay, so AG, as I said, we really are so limited in this debate, and this debate is only about deleting certain words. Okay, in clause 5. It's not the entirety of clause 5. I allowed you to respond based on certain things that were said by Superior. But, you know, I'm not going to allow anybody to stand here and carry this debate outside of the very limited remit which we have today.
That was interesting because that was where the whole proceedings, well, that part of the proceedings ended. The session in Parliament was I think a lot shorter than anticipated. And as I said, it was not necessarily just the opposition that was running afoul of the standing orders yesterday. The AG himself also tried to politically campaign the broader issue to some degree, whether it was in response to what the opposition leader said or not. That could be debated. I didn't necessarily pay too much attention there. What I did pay attention to is the fact that when the opposition leader said, well, because the AG didn't say anything, we can't say anything, I think what the speaker meant, Keaton, was that you're not responding to the AG, so, you know, you can't have the leeway to rehash too far outside of what the standing order says with regards to what is actually on the amendment. So if the opposition leader was responding to something, that would have been different. But as she is for whatever reason speaking first or before the AG, there's nothing to respond to. So it changed the dynamics quite considerably. And I don't know if perhaps it might have been a strategy that left the opposition a bit in a bind, not knowing what to do.
Whom I often do not give credit to, given past instances of which I believe that her position, her role as Speaker of the House, she did not execute her responsibilities and duties that should have been best. However, I will admit that this time I thought personally that she seemed to have acted in a much more mature, better manner, and that's refreshing to see. I will admit, and I'm speaking generally now, this is just one video, but I will say that over the last week, I am very, very turned off by the reports coming out from parliamentarians and their conduct during debates, whether it be that from independent senator, not independent, my apologies, government senator Sagram Singh Suklal and her comments towards opposition senator Jayanti Lakshmi, even the allegations surrounding opposition senator Jayanti Lakshmi using obscene language. We're all human beings, I understand that, but there's no need for that, and I was very disappointed to hear about such allegations on the part of opposition senator Jayanti Lakshmi. You would think, or you would expect, that she would know better and do better. Beyond that, this walkout from the opposition, as we would have seen yesterday. If you want to walk out, walk out. You know, I'm tired of saying that I do not think it is the best way to conduct business. If you're saying that how you want to make your contributions, you want to speak, all right? You are getting the opportunity to do so. You are being reprimanded on the stance that, listen, we're not going back, we're going forward. You know, we can't continue to rehash certain things. The opposition didn't see, the opposition leader seemed very unhappy about that, and she staged a walkout. All right, cool, fine, go ahead, stage your walkout. That just means the entire debate and conversation is flushed out. And then, you know, simple majority legislation, you don't even need to be sitting in Parliament for that to pass. But beyond that, if you are walking out, why is it that you have to act in such a manner to further disrupt the proceedings of the House? I don't think that members of the House on both sides understand the honor and the privilege they have in sitting in that position. 41 of you were elected to from the Trinidad and Tobago citizenry by the Trinidad and Tobago citizenry. And you're walking out, and the conduct and the speech by MP Barry Padarath and furthermore Khadija Amin. Again, the best way that the Speaker of the House put it was, you are senior, you are mature, you're supposed to understand and know these things. Why would you get on like that? Why would you act in that manner? We can all understand and relate to frustrations. You can make your arguments about democracy. There's nothing wrong with that. But in doing so, there is a certain decorum of which you should practice. And I believe, Sean, we have lost that. I believe we have lost that amongst our parliamentarians.
Well, I actually take umbrage to the line of argument that the opposition took to justify the walkout as they were walking out. Right? Again, how is it an affront to democracy when the Speaker of the House is merely enforcing the rules, which she did to the Attorney General? He wasn't speaking for that long after they left for her to get up both times. In fact, his total time speaking was rather short. It makes me wonder if parliamentarians, well, yes, parliamentarians were unprepared, right? Particularly, I do wonder if the opposition was unprepared. This is not the first time I have said this with regards to the Tobago Autonomy Bill. When it was being debated in the House, I found that the opposition were utilizing arguments that, quite frankly, Tobagonians were not utilizing, which made me wonder just what were they, did they even think they were talking about? It seems as though they were saying the things they thought people wanted to hear, as opposed to saying the important points that was relevant to the debate. And that leads me to my next point. I understand, right, that yes, you're the opposition, you're a check on the government. Just because you don't like something does not mean it's an affront to democracy. Just because you're put in a position that you don't like does not automatically mean. It could be, but I'm starting to get very, very wary about the opposition all of a sudden being the chief intellectual proprietors of what is democratic or not democratic, right? When they act in such an unprofessional manner, it undermines the concepts of democracy if you take these things too far.
I would go
right?
one step further, Sean.
It works both ways.
I was just about to say that this is something that is not only the fault of the opposition, it's not only a shortcoming of the opposition, but of government benches as well. Again, using the example of Senator Sagram Singh Sukla last week, it was inappropriate and totally uncalled for. Even the alleged response by Senator Jayanti Lakshmi in the tea room. Beyond that, again, the opposition has every right to raise points. The opposition has every right to disagree. The opposition has every right, if they like to stage a walkout. They have that right, they have that privilege. But at the same time, we as citizens are the ones that are losing out, because the debates do not get to their full potential. And beyond that, if you're staging your walkout, your parliamentary conduct is absolutely poor. And I know that the opposition will be very quick to chastise any government member for any wayward decorum, as would the government criticizing the opposition. Don't get me wrong, as you mentioned, it works both ways. However, it is very hard to take a side seriously in terms of their criticisms when they themselves cannot set an example for parliamentary conduct.
My frustration is more on the opposition because we've seen this song and dance way too often. But you're right. We also, and there's a reason why I wanted to have all of that clip. It took a lot of editing to fit it all in. I wanted to include every single instance of the speaker having to talk, not just to the opposition leader, but also to the AG. Because you literally just watch the speaker admonish the opposition leader for doing a thing, and then you repeatedly do that same thing. So again, it makes me wonder to what extent are parliamentarians truly prepared to debate legislation for the sake of legislating, as opposed to political debates for the sake of campaigning.
Sure,
and that's what I feel we get more of. We get more campaigning. Those comments towards Jayanti Lakshmi, that was campaigning, right? A lot of what we saw by the opposition leader and the AG, that was campaigning, because the AG wanted to rebut. But the things that he wanted to rebut, again, if you're debating something, if you're debating legislature, academically speaking, it's nice, you get a shortcut. These things were done before. You don't have to rehash them.
Sean,
it is understood, that's what was said, it's on the record. Use that to move on and advance the debate faster, as opposed to trying to just keep going and droning, which is what they do on political platforms.
We have to take a commercial break as we have to welcome our guest for the next segment here on Talking Point, but we will return after this.
The best laptops and tablets are at dbesttoys.com. Get a Gateway 14.1-inch Ultra Slim notebook or an HP 14-inch laptop at the best prices in TNT. Get the Fire 7 tablet for $474. You can also shop the latest Amazon Fire Sticks. Call now at 32-DBEST to order, or visit us in-store at Forces flagship MacBean. Shop online now at dbesttoys.com. Free delivery available throughout Trinidad and Tobago. Cash or links on delivery.
The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you, what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through? Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion?
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we'll see you next time.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity, from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378, or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
People really want to know, what about me? Where do I fit? Yes. What is in the ride for me in terms of a better Trinidad and Tobago? And I'm pleased to shed some light on that.
The purpose of bail is to ensure your attendance at court. That's it. It is not punitive. It is not rehabilitative.
We, the police officers, we are professional, and we are here for whenever the survivor is ready to come forward.
We have the right to private and family life, the right to religious freedoms and beliefs and thoughts and expression. But these rights are not absolute. Certain rights can be limited.
The law is to govern the whole. It's for all of us in public.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing on it.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is there no pressure on Nicholas Ball?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
Welcome back to Talking Point, ladies and gentlemen. Now, Keaton had to leave us in order to fulfill his other responsibilities. However, fortunately, I am joined by our guest this morning. He's the head of the Tobago Business Chamber. And of course, you've seen him on the program before. This is Mr. Martin George, attorney at law. Good morning, sir.
Yeah, hi. Good morning to you, Sean, and good morning to all your viewers on WESN, the content capital.
Well, Mr. George, so you are yourself, you're a very outspoken public figure, which we appreciate in the media. Better to have people talking than not talking. So that leads me into the first thing that I'd like to get your opinion on, because the THA seems to be quite tight-lipped over the controversy, I guess you could say, of the audio recordings. Now, we have technically not identified, we have not proven who the recordings are of. Assumptions are made by various different quarters of the island as well as the nation. From where you stand with the people who you've spoken to, both in your profession and as head of a business chamber, you know, what do you make of this situation, and how bad really is it? Is it not that bad at all?
Well, the thing is, Sean, you know, it all depends on how we as Trinbagonians treat with it. Because, you know, of course, we've had the hallowed words of former Prime Minister Basdeo Panday, who said politics has a morality of its own, which basically tends to suggest that, look, you know, in politics, anything goes. But I think we as Trinbagonians have to be able to draw a line in the sand to say enough is enough, And, this is, basically you've crossed the Rubicon in this regard. And I am hoping that Tobagonians are able to lead and show the way in this regard. Tobagonians have been able to, be leaders in many other areas of industry and endeavor in Trinidad and Tobago. And I'm hoping that in this area of accountability in public affairs, accountability for public spending, accountability for, morals in politics, I am hoping that Tobagonians will let their voices be heard and demand that there be some kind of answers and explanations given. We saw the Express newspaper actually did an entire editorial on the issue, calling upon the leaders in the THA to come out and speak out on this issue. I, in my capacity as president of the Tobago Business Chamber, I have called on them to, come out and speak out on it because it's something that needs to be addressed. And, we don't even need to go, basically with taking a flambeau to look in the night for what you have not even sought to find during the daytime. So when people start talking about the possibility of artificial intelligence or voice splicing or it being a bot call or robotic voice manipulation, hold on. How did we even get there when you basically have what sounds like two human voices and you haven't heard from the two humans as to whether it's their voice or not? So in other words, they are the ones who need to first speak out on it and say, well, look, is it my voice? Is it not my voice? And then maybe they can then offer their explanations in the alternative. But, we really have, I think, missed the mark if we even begin to talk about artificial intelligence and these other things when the human beings in the, audio clip allegedly have not even addressed the issue or answered. And I mean, I think that, we, on shows like this, and that's why, Sean, I always make the time to attend and, participate because I think your voice is a very powerful voice in the community. And, I try to play my part in whatever small way I can to raise these issues, to try to elevate the level of public discourse and conversation. Because, in Trinidad and Tobago, we were a land of humor, rumor, and bacchanal and old talk and mobile. And that's fine. That's part of our culture, that's part of our nature. But sometimes there are issues which require sober, solemn, mature discussion and exposition. And I think that's the reason why we're having this topic, spoken about today.
Well, the silence that we're getting, one newspaper columnist, I believe, used the term silence is golden, except, and went on to say, well, in this case, not so much. I use the phrase silence is deafening. I find it's rather, it's very difficult to avoid the lack of communication on this issue. But this is something that seems to have been built up to. Because we've heard various stakeholders say, well, you can't necessarily hear from them, the current executive administration anymore. The communication channels have become, less and less. Now, the minority party has been hammering home on some of these issues, and we'll get into some of the other ones later. But how true is this? Is it that the THA executive is now less and less willing to speak? And is it something to do about when you're in power, you just don't want to have to deal with the difficult questions from the public?
Well, I would think it would really come down to that because, when they're on the campaign trail and they're trying to get your votes, they're all over the media, they're all up in your face, all the time, coming to your door, knocking on your gate, coming and, begging and pleading for discussions with you to vote for them. And it seems that, once ensconced in the corridors and the bosom of power, they take a different view. I mean, we had a scenario where I think one of the secretaries, the Secretary for Health, made a very unfortunate comment about persons disturbing her or bothering her. I mean, the reaction from the public was, hey, but wait, a couple months ago when you were disturbing us and bothering us to get our votes, you didn't have a problem. So now we're asking for assistance. How come it becomes bothering or bothersome to you? And it comes back to the question of accountability. And the thing is, Sean, we in Trinidad and Tobago have to recognize that unless we are willing to step up and step forth and ask the difficult questions and probably seek to make the hard changes that are necessary, we would probably be doomed to be ruled by our inferiors. And history shows that. The Greek philosophers, they were very clear on that. They said, if you don't wish to, take the steps to try and change things, then you will be ruled by your inferiors. And it appears that that is what is happening here, in the sense that we have persons who have, aspired for office, they have gotten into office, and having gotten there, they seem to have drifted so far from their moorings. Remember the moral code that this party signed on to prior to coming into office, where they said, look, we are going to be different, we're going to set a different standard. And in fact, they said that, look, anyone who breaks this code will be dealt with swiftly and severely. What happened to that? Why aren't we calling upon them in that regard?
Well, exactly. It's an interesting phenomenon where slowly but surely, and one of our callers, he had to retract his criticism on me with regards to my criticisms on the THA executive, because I started to see them make similar mistakes to other politicians, political organizations, reverting back to that baseline average that they were supposed to be, moving us away from. Now, the opposition party in Tobago has been taking full advantage of this, and you can't blame them, right? You're watching the PNM now looking much better just because of a few mistakes from the THA executive. One of the things that the political leader of the Tobago Council, well, not one of the things, quite a few things, is the fact that certain promises made to the people of Tobago arguably has not really come to fruition. And I think it's been hinted that perhaps the work of the people of Tobago has been sidelined a bit with regards to some of these issues. I believe one public figure, I can't remember who we were speaking to at the time, but when the whole situation with the being independent and we have a new political party, it could have been Winford James. He questioned the fact that, look, you're there to be in the THA, not to be making new political parties. You're spending time on this political endeavor, this new beginning. Meanwhile, the people's business is kind of lamenting, in uncertainty as people are just waiting. So to what extent have the people been waiting for any sort of significant change? Because the new, well, I'm not entirely sure, to be honest, what the project is, but I have said at least once or twice on this show that Tobago potentially has a traffic issue that will manifest itself coming from Crown Point, with that single lane. At some point, you no longer have the old road and the main road. You just have one road. And now I applaud them for making an effort, but their excuse is, well, the PNM did it this way, so we could do it this way. Like, I don't understand how this is supposed to be better.
Yeah, and that's exactly the point, Sean, and, I think that unfortunately, we are beginning to see in Tobago descent into the moral abyss, whereby, persons are willing to basically sell their souls for 30 pieces of silver. In other words, once they can line up and get their share at the gravy train, or where they can eat at the trough, they are willing to actually zip their lips and remain silent on major issues and not speak out because they are getting their share of the spoils. And once we reach to that situation, then you are going to end up to a state of anarchy, because in other words, nothing goes, there's no more right or wrong, there's no dividing line to say, well, okay, this is the limit, we will not cross this line. It appears that they are willing basically to sell their souls once they are getting a piece of the pie.
Well, before we come to close, I do want to ask though, because I gave my opinion on the potential traffic issues on that part of Tobago, right? As much as, ironically, Ansel, that is the Tobago Council political leader, says, well, that's not a big issue. I would like to say, well, hold on. The point is to prevent these things from becoming big issues, to then try to fix it. In the opinion of yourself and perhaps your members, the Storbay local Shervan Connector Road, is this a project, you know, the implementation problems aside, is this a project that would have benefited Tobago if we see it to fruition?
Well, I mean, of course, anything that increases connectivity in that way would be something of benefit. But of course, we must always recognize that we are part of a twin island nation, a twin island state, and the EMA is the EMA for all of Trinidad and Tobago. So therefore, if the EMA has certain policies and requirements, then we must subscribe to them. If it is that there are areas of responsibility which under the 5th schedule of the THA Act are hived off to be under the mandate of the THA and there's no national policy, then fine, the THA can create its own policy. But if you have an organization such as the EMA and it has a national policy, then the case of Attorney General versus THA, where you had the judgment of Justice Nadia Kangaloo, that made it pellucid that the THA has to subscribe to whatever is the national policy. You know, so Sean, I have to thank you very much for the time here, but I have another engagement that I have to rush off to. I mean, I'm sorry to, you know, that we're not able to spend more time, but, you know, it's always a pleasure chatting with you.
Well, thank you for that last remark there, educating me. I myself am not always aware of all the case law. But
I will send you a copy. It's a very interesting judgment, yes.
Well, thank you for that. That will be good. So, folks, that is, of course, Attorney at Law and President of the Tobago Business Chamber, Martin George. Again, we appreciate people who, like Mr. George, are willing to speak publicly, to put their opinions out there, to have that bravery that once people get into high office, that bravery seems to all of a sudden disappear, unfortunately.
Yeah, because most people wish to line up, as I say, to feed at the gravy train.
Well, and the age-old issue that we have in politics, yes. This was supposed to be the start of something potentially different, and yes, we'll see how it goes.
Doesn't appear to be that. Thanks very much. Have a great day.
Thank you, Mr. George. As you leave us, we will break for news on the hour here on WESN. And of course, when we return, we'll open up the phone lines. Keaton will rejoin me. Thanks to Mr. George once again. But of course, folks, stay tuned. News on the hour next.
Each other for attacking the site.
Thanks, Mr. George.
This is your WESN News on the Hour. Thank you for joining us. Here are the headlines. 2023 road death figure hits 48. Gas station proprietor robbed during home invasion in Dewey. Security officer being fined $35,000 for traffic in marijuana in Sangre Grande. In regional news, Bahamian officials detained 22 foreigners in possible human smuggling ring. With the details, I'm Keaton Shaw. 3 bandits who robbed the owner of a gas station in Dewey are currently on the run from the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. 77-year-old Molly Diokanan, the proprietor of Checkers service station situated at Dewey Trace, said she was at home asleep when she was abruptly awakened by a loud sound around 2:45 a.m. on Monday morning. Diokanan investigated, only to be confronted by the intruders who were wearing dark-colored clothing as well as masks. One of the robbers swiftly seized Diokanan's prized possession, a gold bearer valuated at $1,000, along with an iPhone 7 worth $2,000 and the keys to her business establishment. The suspects then grabbed a black wallet containing $2,100 in cash, 2 gold rings valued at $5,000, and 3 watches from her nightstand before making their escape through a window at the northern side of the house. The rainy season officially started on June 1st, and the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service is advising the public to remain alert. 2 road traffic accidents on Monday morning, which claimed the lives of 4 persons, brought the 2023 road death figure to 48, compared to 44 for the same period in 2022. According to police reports, around 4 a.m., a black Toyota RAV4 with 5 occupants, which was proceeding east along the priority bus route in the vicinity of the Aruca police station, collided with a silver Nissan B15 with 4 occupants, which was proceeding west on the PBR. A 33-year-old and a 22-year-old, both from Kelly Village, Carney, and occupants of the B15 lost their lives, while the driver, 30 years from the Kelly Village, succumbed to his injuries this afternoon. Meanwhile, in another incident, around 8:30 a.m. on Monday morning, a grey Toyota Hilux was proceeding north along the southern main road in McBean, Couva, with 3 occupants. The driver then collided with a parked Nissan truck. A 30-year-old of McBean, Couva died at the scene of the accident, while the other occupants received injuries and were taken to the Couva hospital. A 45-year-old man who pleaded guilty to possession of cannabis for the purpose of trafficking, charged at the Sangarani Magistrates Court, was fined $35,000. Richard Phillip of Paria Main Road, Grand River Village, was also given 12 months to pay the fine, or in default serve 3 years of hard labour. The accused was charged by officers of the Eastern Divisional Gang and Intelligence Unit following a surveillance exercise into the illicit narcotic trade in the Toko district. According to a police report, at 11 a.m. last Saturday, officers started the operation, during which they monitored the driver of a black hatchback Toyota Yaris in the Grand River area. The vehicle then left that district and began heading south along the Toko Main Road and continued into the Sangarani Police District. Officers intercepted the vehicle, where a search led to the discovery of 3 bales of marijuana wrapped in clear plastic weighing 1.6 kilograms. The narcotics have an estimated street value of $24,000. In regional news, Bahamian officials said they've detained 22 foreigners, including 2 children, on Sunday after intercepting a 32-foot vessel in Bahamian waters carrying a United States flag in a possible human smuggling ring. Police press liaison officer, Chief Superintendent Crystalyn Skippings, told reporters that they are going to remain firm and relentless in their pursuit to find out if persons were engaging in human smuggling. She said the group included 13 men, 6 women, 2 children, and 1 infant from Ecuador, Italy, Haiti, and the Dominican Republic, as well as Brazil. They were reportedly on their way to North America. That's news of the hour here on WESN. I'm Keaton Shah. Thank you for watching. I have more for you at the top of the hour. Welcome back to Talking Point, and thank you very much once more to Mr. Martin George for joining the team this morning for that particular interview. And thank you very much to Sean Michael Small for his conducting of that particular interview. Glad to be back. I've had other responsibilities and duties to fulfill. But Sean Michael Small, I think it's now a prime time, I suppose, to open up the phone line following our conversations this morning and your conversation with Mr. George. Let's open up the phone line. 628-4578, 628-4578. Call in and join us. Remember, we only have one phone line working this morning, so please be short, simple, and sweet to the point. The number should be up on your screen, actually, in a moment or two. We do already have a caller on the line with us from Pitty Valley. Good morning, caller.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Sean and Keaton.
Good morning.
Sean, the judgment what Mr. George spoke about by Judge Kangaloo, what he spoke about, I didn't know the judgment. The Commissioner of Police is the Commissioner of Police for Trinidad and Tobago. The licensed officer is the licensed officer for Trinidad and Tobago. The EMA is the EMA for Trinidad and Tobago. So when the EMA make a judgment in the Tobago project that is going on for the road, it have no EMA in Tobago to say about the judgment. It's the judgment of the EMA of Trinidad and Tobago. I remember when there was building Sandals, it was the same noise. What stopped Sandals was EMA environment and EMA this and EMA that, and the project stopped. And the project Sandals at the time would have been good for the Tobago people with jobs and everything. Just like the project, I'm not against the highway will be good. But if the EMA said that they didn't get approval for it, they have no approval for it. They have no EMA in Tobago to say elsewhere. That's my comment this morning. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, caller, for your contribution. 628-4578, 628-4578. Could we put the number on the screen for our viewers, please? 628-4578. You can call in and join us on the program. I think it's a valuable point that has been raised, something that we should stress on. There is no one particular agency that is national, that's solely in terms of any court orders or judgment Tobago. EMA is Trinidad and Tobago. The police service is Trinidad and Tobago. The Defense Force is Trinidad and Tobago. National organizations that deal with both islands. Yes, Sean, there was a comment you'd like to make?
Well, one of the questions, we ran out of time, and hopefully with other speakers on Tobago issues, we could get an answer to this. To what extent are things like this, especially with this kind of conflict or disagreement with the EMA and their jurisdiction, how much is that hurting the long-term efforts for Tobago autonomy? Because I very much still think, as much as we've had people speak about it on this show before, including the current Deputy Chief Secretary, we haven't necessarily gotten very definitive, factual statements, because I guess the debate is ongoing, so they don't want to limit what it can or cannot be. But to some extent, you know, the constant push and pull over who has what authority, granted, some of it might be warranted, but I do wonder if it's starting to kind of wear thin, and it might cause the whole autonomy debate to look even less, not significant, but less valid in the eyes of the general public, which is, ethically speaking, it's very odd that, yes, Tobago autonomy technically has to come from Parliament, and Parliament will be made up more of Trinidadians, generally speaking, than Tobagonians. But there's no real practical way around that. So it's a very odd situation. Just one more where we will potentially see Tobago lead the way, as Mr. George said. Politically speaking, quite
Sean,
a lot Tobago has led the way.
Just
it's just
pause
that
for a
the
moment.
specific instance is not necessarily the best thing to be leading with.
Just pause for a moment. I believe we have a call on the line with us.
Hi, good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. That's a familiar voice I haven't heard for a while.
Yes, well, you know my situation, so I tried my best to get you as I could. And once they had it there, or
you sound a lot better and a lot stronger.
yeah, well, I'm feeling a little better, thank God for that.
Thank goodness for that, yes.
I just calling to make a comment concerning this Senator Sagram Sukla. I find she comes across a lot of animosity, you know, speech and so on, and a lot of venom. And she has to try and control that because she comes across just like how Alabari was with Anna Rogan. And she now is with this giant Rush Media. So that's an observation I'm making. And also noticed with the AG, he doesn't like to be on the wrong side of anything. Anytime he says anything that he feels that is going to affect him, he always tries to convince the public that he is right and the other side is wrong. Like he made a comment when he said that when the judgment he never said anything but they could be held liable, anybody put anything in the papers and all sort of things. He didn't directly speak, but he spoke and said that. So, all these sorts of things, it's a very dangerous situation with a person like that who doesn't like to lose. And he has to check himself as Attorney General of Trinidad and Tobago. Gentlemen, you have a good day and
You too, caller.
take care of yourselves.
Thank you very much for your contribution. Good hearing from you, and please continue on your recovery. You sound a lot better and a lot stronger. It's wonderful to hear that familiar voice after some time. I will agree with you, but I think the issue of venoming spewed comes from both sides. I'm deeply frustrated and, as I said, turned off from what we experienced last week and even yesterday. But with regards to your comments and the Attorney General, you have to understand, caller, that no politician and no lawyer would like to be on the wrong side of anything. Politician and a lawyer, none of them would like to be on the wrong side. But we have a caller on the line with us from Santa Cruz. Good morning, caller. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
You all mightn't understand what is really going on in Tobago. This is a sign of rebellion because Tobago won their independence. And this party will use all form of rebelliousness. Because back in the days of slavery, for countries to get independence, where it had revolution and all these things, and this is where the slave master will understand. And this is what Tobago is telling them. This party is telling them. I wouldn't be surprised if they start to form a national anthem and they ask for their own flag. And this is what they have to do. I support them in that. Because you want your independence and you got to make noise. It's not about when PNM come back in to keep it PNM on the thing. No, it's not about that. We want independence. We are serious. We want independence. And this is the thing. We can't be like Trinidad and Tobago. We have a thing where you want to go back by the king and it's a republic. And the king must settle your business. Tobago is saying, I'm an adult. I can run my house. And I cannot run my house and be by my mother all the time. It's time to separate. The marriage has ended. And we need a divorce. And this is the problem we have here. People do not listen to time when they say the marriage is over. It is over. They always want to dominate. And we have to look at that. And this is why I'm saying this. And I support him 100%.
All right, caller, thank you.
Have a blessed day.
You too. Have a very good day, caller. Thank you very much for your contribution. I'm actually wondering to what extent do the residents of Tobago want independence? Do the residents of Tobago understand the cost associated with independence? And do the residents of Tobago know the difference between independence and autonomy? Has that been educated? Has that been preached enough? The difference between autonomy and independence. We have a caller on the line with us from Shogunas. Good morning, caller.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Right. Tobago will never be ceded from Trinidad because those two seats for the political elections is what keeps Tobago with Trinidad. And the other thing too, if Tobago is ceded from Trinidad, the exclusive economic zone that we enjoy at present will be lessened. And then also Tobago has some serious reserve in gas and oil to be exploited and to be brought up. Now, that is one point. That is one thing. Those three things there are the three major things on a more global scale. Not how people feel and not what politicians say and whatever. Those are the deciding factors. The other thing is Lachmi Dial and I'm forgetting the other politician name.
Sagram Singh Suklal, independent senator.
Khadija Amin.
Sorry, Khadija Amin.
The both of them embarrassed Al-Rawi so much that it is a shame that I listened to it carefully. Not one thing they said was outside of what Al-Rawi had been telling them. They took everything and tear it apart and throw it back on his face. And when the Attorney General tried to help out, he too had to take a little silence. And then Kamala's response is something that everybody is beginning to say. It's high time they put the speaker down on her feet. Every time she on her feet. Anything they say, she on her feet. So it's high time that is stopped because they're not getting to present what they have to present in Parliament. So okay, and the opportunity they took to respond back to them, like how Fitzgerald Hines, how Dayal Singh, and how the Prime Minister himself, and how Al-Rawi responds, and always intimidating and insulting and using derogatory remarks. It came and hit them back straight in the face. So if anybody don't like it, I looked at it carefully. I'm not saying I'm supporting UNC or PNM. No, I don't know what I do in this election. But the point is, it was well-deserved and well-timed.
Thank you very much, caller. Do have a good day. 628-4578, 628-4578. Call us and join us on Talking Point this morning. That is a conundrum I think many of the citizens find themselves in. What am I going to do in the next election? Sean?
I think the caller was right. I think Senator Lakshmi Dayal in the debate part of it, looked well, right? She answered the claims made by Faris Alwari, local government minister, effectively. It's just the extra that happened afterwards that kind of caused her to get demerits, to lose some of the good grace that she earned not too long before. I get it. It's basic human nature. Somebody does a personal attack against you, you take it personally, you get mad, you say something in anger. Unfortunately, similar to the acting commissioner of prisons, you are not Joe Public on the street, you're not a grunt, you're not a worker bee, you're not a clerk, right? You are a leading public figure, for better or worse. So the expectations are higher. They just are. Same thing with the government, which, the irony, of course, is like what the caller said. Who do you vote for? Because there is no clear, well, this group is not doing these things, so we could vote for them. If we don't want to see this in politics and in Parliament anymore. No, everybody's making the same mistakes. Now even the Tobago executive in Tobago, right? Same mistakes as that they themselves decried. So it leaves the voters now in a lurch. I would be very curious if for whatever reason there was an election in Tobago today. I really have no idea how that would go. I really don't. Or even in the next election, I think it would be very much up in the air. Very open.
Well, I'm keeping a close eye out as to what's taking place. In fact, going back to that conversation about autonomy versus independence, I'm wondering now if autonomy is something that can or that will be achieved under this particular Tobago House of Assembly administration.
They barely established themselves before their agenda has, for all intents and purposes, whether they admit it or not, been derailed, right? Work coming out of Tobago for any sort of development or reform has, it's moving at a snail's pace, and autonomy in Tobago. The thing is, if autonomy was an agreed upon concept where they nailed down all the details, and it's just now, okay, we're going to have it or not have it. That's all that they need to settle. Fine. Maybe it could have been done under this administration. But it seems to me that whole question you have autonomy versus independence, they have people who are supporting one way or the other, who they themselves have not necessarily determined what they think autonomy should mean. You know, when you compare it now to independence, how close to independence are you looking to get? Because autonomy implies, well, we ain't going all the way. But the room in between full independence and no independence, that entire space there, I think different people, you know, think autonomy lies at different points on that scale. So that and all has to be determined, debated. You know, what does it mean? What exactly does it mean? Then settle all of the legalities and technicalities of it, and then determine if we're really going to pass it or not. I don't see that happening under this set of politicians, whether it's TPP, PNM, PDP, whoever. I ain't seeing that happening anytime soon. I don't think anybody really wants it to happen anytime soon.
628-4578, 628-4578. You can call in and join us on Talking Point this morning. We only have about 3 to 4 minutes of which we can keep the phone line open again. But we apologize, it's just one phone line that is actually currently working. So we're trying to resolve that issue because it does affect the calls. In fact, some people can't even get through regularly on this particular phone line. But we're trying our best there, so call in and join us and make your contribution. The next side of it, of course, is one individual whom we have... I wouldn't want to say we've forgotten, but who has not played a key role or a major part of this. And that is the silence of Watson Solomon Duke.
You do that again. You're just dropping that bomb about Watson Duke towards the end of the show. You know, it'll be very ironic that his advisors are telling him, look, be quiet, and he's actually staying quiet. And one could even argue, is this the time for him to be quiet? I would say, given the wild card nature of what he says, I'm not too sure. He could cause the whole conversation to go in the wrong direction by speaking the wrong thing. So maybe it's good that he's staying silent. But on a basic level, to be fair to the man, you know, now is the time that he should be speaking. If the PDP is supposed to have a life beyond this tenure.
Imagine Watson Duke coming out and saying, I told you so. I told you. Y'all wouldn't listen to me, but I told you so. The thing is, to what extent is he staying silent? Because there is a certain level of responsibility on his part for the individuals whom are in that position. See, you've made the argument previously, hold on, Watson Duke couldn't do it on his own. He needed Farley Augustine in order to win that election in December of 2021.
Well, that's the thing, right? Given the nature of the individual, and I've seen him on this network take an interview and kind of run around the topic or the question being asked, I very much don't doubt that Watson Duke is one of those politicians that could try to convince the public, you know, black is white, white is black, up is down, you know, the sky is green and the grass is blue. So I don't think that he will be too concerned with regards to any sort of implication his past association would have, because he might actually go and say, well, look, that's why I made it an issue, you know, first. That's why I decided to bemoan the behavior of the TH executive first, that I started to air dirty laundry first.
Well,
so
Sean,
I could see where he could easily spin this, whether truthfully or untruthfully. You know, I don't know what he would potentially say.
Well, I'll tell you what, pause on your point. We have our final caller for the morning from Aruka on the line with us. Good morning, caller from Aruka. Hello, good morning, caller. You're live. Hello.
You can tell me what's up.
Yes. All right, let's cut that call.
Sorry, we couldn't hear. Well, Keith
I don't
and
know.
we will be using different audio levels because we're not in the same location. But I assume, Keaton, you couldn't hear, make out anything that was said, neither could I.
It's just that callers, please, we have to close the phone line now. But kindly mute your television when calling in. And if you're having a conversation with somebody else, we don't need to hear it on it. It's not for us to hear. It's your personal conversation. But kindly mute your television and be very careful, please, of what's taking place in the background.
I know callers have to wait to go after they call in to wait for us to transition to come on air. Callers, if you are distracted during that time when we come to you, the best way to say it is you do so at your own risk, because, you know, depending on the timing of things, we could come to you right away, or it might take us a little time to try to wrap up. We don't just want to leave a sentence kind of incomplete and hanging. That wouldn't be proper. So just something to be aware of. You know, try to be attentive to the phone when you're waiting to be put on air.
Sean Michael Small, this is where we conclude things for Talking Point this morning. Thank you very much once more for joining us virtually, but best, I suppose.
Well, hold on. I want to hear your opinion on Mr. Duke. Should he be speaking out now? Do you want to hear him now? Because potentially his party was the party of all that hope and promise that we were questioning. Does it still exist in any form in Tobago?
I think people will start to take Mr. Duke seriously a bit more now than they did previously. What is happening is, are we seeing the true colors of the executives of the Tobago House of Assembly? Were these the real individuals whom existed previously? And it feels quite ironic sitting in this position that I have criticized Mr. Duke, and I will not hold back on those criticisms. If he comes out with valid points rather than the overstretched, over-imagined, and very, very many times eccentric positions that he takes, people will take him a bit more seriously. I think the Tobago House of Assembly executives have only exposed themselves, and I think at this point, it's unfortunate, but it seems as though the hope of everyone seeing a difference or a change has, I would like to say it is vanishing. I wouldn't like to say it has vanished. I'd like to say it is vanishing. It shocked us all. It surprised us all. But in one way or the other, as much as Mr. Duke needed Farley Augustine and the rest of the executives to win that election, bear in mind, he also had some points of which we perhaps did not take seriously given the character that we were dealing with.
I'll leave you with this question. To what extent is it fair and right for us now to judge him in hindsight based on new information that we are correlating to the situation, but it might not actually be, you know, that attributable, that pertinent? You know, I think there's a world where, and Mr. Duke could prove me wrong on this. Very much I could be, you know, be proven wrong and will admit it willingly. But there could be a world where, you know, two wrongs don't make a right, and in this case, neither one was right.
I think anything that Watson Solomon Duke says or suggests, as in the past, will be my stance now and in the future. I will always take it with a spoon of salt. I will always take it with a spoon of salt. Like I said, because of the eccentric character that we're dealing with, it has to be something that has to be completely and thoroughly examined, analyzed, studied, before we can say, all right, okay, listen, yeah, you're right. So, you know, just bear that in mind. Just bear all that in mind. Anyway, Sean Michael Small, have a good day, and I hope that the sun outside that is shining is only means good things for you today.
Yeah, it means it's going to be too hot, but anyway.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, remember today is a good day to have a good day. This has been Talking Points on WESN Content Capital. I'm Keaton Shaw. That's Shaw Michael Small. We'll see you again tomorrow morning from 8 a.m. Bye-bye.
WESN